words of Mahatma Gandhi, be the change you want to see in this world. I am beyond excited with our guest on today's show. Matter of fact, I'm a bit starstruck. She has definitely been a person I have followed in the recent months when I heard her story. An advocate for collaboration versus competition, she believes in the philosophy that we are better together. Another great example of a passion-driven individual that has not only made local waves, but has been a global mover and shaker. By far, a true representation of I am woman, hear me roar. I'm your host, Rachel Dares.
And I'm Marshall Thomas, and you're watching PASSIONDRIVEN.TV. Hi, and welcome back. Our special guest today, Michelle Patterson, here to talk about her new book, Women Change the World. It is a distinct pleasure to have you here today. My gosh, I know you're a much sought-after commentator with all the media outlets, Fox Business News, Huffington Post, and so many others. I know it's your role as executive director of Global Women's Foundation and the founder of the Women's Network that gets you all this attention. But you're also the president of the California Women's Conference, and there's a wonderful story that goes with that because I know it was spawned in part by a interview you did while still in school as a little girl. Could you elaborate on that?
And thank you, Marshall, for having me and Rachel. It's a joy meeting you.
Thank you.
You know, I had such a great experience. 12 years old, I got selected to interview the governor of the state of California, which was Governor George Deukmejian, for the 8th grade school paper. And I'm telling you, my interview, much like this, I had very, very, riveting questions, very profound questions. What's your favorite hobby? How many kids do you have? What's your favorite pastime? Your favorite color? And Governor Deukmejian looked at me and he said, Michelle, that was the best interview I've ever heard.
Nice.
And I remember I left there, and I was a quiet kid. I didn't have a lot of confidence. I actually was round-shouldered. I slumped when I walked. And I remember leaving that meeting, and I straightened up, and I left there, and I thought, you know what, I want to be governor.
Wow.
And so I was president of my high school. I went to Sarah High School in San Diego. I was student body president at Loyola Marymount, worked in Sacramento. Decided to take a different route and get into business, but it was the first time that somebody outside of my immediate family, my mom and dad, that had said, you matter, you count. Perfect. And so often, and that's what the book is about, is so often women feel like they're not enough. And, we have to have everything perfect, and we are perfect. We're exactly the way we should be. And for me, it was really taking a page from Deukmejian and being able to go back with the conference and with the book and being able to tell women how much their value is and how much the world needs them and the significance that they make to the world.
And it was the governor at that time that had started the women's conferences.
So interestingly enough, and we actually had a big press conference, some 30 years later, and we met, and here he started the conference, 30 years ago, and he started it. And when you ask him, he'll tell you, women were opening up businesses and they were failing at a rapid rate. And he started this conference to be able to go ahead and bring the resources and the tools together for women, which is what we do today.
Right.
And he'll tell you, well, I started it, but my wife Gloria really got it going. And there we were, 30 some odd years later, right before I did my first conference in 2012. And I was invited to his home, and we did a press conference there. And we're not talking about politics. Yeah. We are talking about the fact that he changed the life of a 12-year-old. And I knew, for me, that I had to, continue that legacy and keep that conference going.
Nice.
And
That's
so,
amazing.
yeah, it's a really neat story, but amazing man.
I can imagine, yeah. And for a 12-year-old to be in the presence of the governor of California, that right there would be stifling to most school children.
Now, looking back, especially in your position now, Did that trigger something within you? I mean, because you're on this path, this passion-driven path. Was that what stemmed your in making waves and making this, paving the way for women?
Well, I thought, how ironic. Here, 27 years later, the same governor that started the conference was one that inspired me.
Right.
And we ran into some major challenges, the first year. And there was many times I wanted to quit, but quitting wasn't an option. And under my watch, that conference was not going to go away.
Right.
And so we stayed on it. And I love sharing this. A man, started the conference.
Right.
And so often, I think we think that we need to go about this, and we absolutely can rely on our men. Wow. And they make wonderful mentors,
sure.
Wonderful mentees, and coaches. And so how can men and women come together and make sure that 100% of the talent pool that's out there is being tapped into, not
right.
just 50%?
Sure. I think one of the underlying themes that runs throughout the book, with all the many chapters done by different women,
I love that you read them all, by the way.
I tried very diligently. I did.
I'm expecting you to start quoting the book.
I have one. The differences between women and men and how they respond
yes.
psychologically in business and in other aspects. One story is about women, for instance, use 27 brain impulses to do a task where men only use 9. So
and
guys,
that's a lot.
Yeah, it is. As you can see, I'm outnumbered, gentlemen. We got 2 very strong-willed and strong-minded women here. But it's and there is a quote from the first chapter, Joanne Albers. She says, "I don't look at gender differences as a negative. I just incorporate them into the strategy to achieve that positive goal, that positive solution." So,
well, and what's interesting too is we did, some 40 different interviews and met with these extraordinary women that are change agents. I mean, they're women that I go to when I need advice and when I need help and guidance. And one of the themes was, again, there was no gender barrier. They really didn't look at it. It's, of course, the men want us involved. And I think what happens oftentimes as women is we put those own barriers on
yes.
ourselves. And I love this. I was in recruiting for many, many years. And you'd have a woman that would respond to a job opportunity. And, you'd see all the listings of the qualities of what we were looking for. And she'd have 7 out of the 10 attributes. So she'd say, you know what, I'm not even going to qualify.
Right.
I'm not even going to go ahead and actually submit my resume.
Right.
A man would come along, he'd have 3 out of the 10. He'd look at that same job description and say, I'm perfect for it.
I got this.
Sign me up. I got this. I own this. And that's what happens is we take ourselves out of the running. We don't put ourselves in, and we don't even come to the table. So often, and we deal with many, many, many corporations with Women Network, where we'll go in and we'll set up the Women's Initiative programming, and you see that happening where women are opting out when they get to that executive level position. Wow. So
I think it's because, we are our biggest critic, don't you think? As women, it's like, it's kind of like, I gotta be perfect.
And I know I feel that way, and so I think, hush, here are these women that don't have access to the resources and the tools. They don't have a support system. I have an amazing support system, great family, great business partners, a phenomenal husband.
Right.
I've got this great husband and support system, and I still feel that way. So again, it's really this paradigm shift that's taking place.
I love that. That's fantastic. I think after reading the book too, Women Change the World, I was inspired by the individual stories and those inspirational endings that each author gave the end of their chapter. I was just curious though, did you actually sat with all of these authors and did you have to pick and choose from all these stories to narrow it down to what is in the book? How'd you go about that process?
We really let the authors it was their story. Every single one of us has a story.
Yeah.
Every single one of us of that period of time where you didn't give up and you stuck to it. And I had a friend recently, and she was so cute. I gave her one of my books, and she says she had a bad day. And she called in, she stayed home from work, and my book was on her nightstand. And she picked up the book, and she said, I ended up just reading it all the way through, straight through. And she says, I got done and I was in a great mood. And I think what happens is that we feel like we have to have all the answers. We have to show up. Everything's perfect.
Right.
That's not. We are already. And so really looking at the book and looking at individuals who've had challenges, but what they've done to overcome those challenges. And we do. We fall down and we get back up. And that's the great thing about the journey that we're all on.
Better believe it. Look inside yourself. Reach in deep. You'll find the answer if you look deep enough. So a lot of people don't want to turn inward and be introspective and find the answer in there, but it is.
Right. I mean, just me reading the book, I sometimes feel like I'm the only one going through this challenge. I'm the only one going through this trial. Everybody else's lives is great, but why am I always, the one that's actually experiencing this? But when I read the book, and it's a compilation of just women's testimonies, and the struggles and the challenges that they've gone through and how they've overcome, I'm just like, wow, like I can get through this. Like this is just a stepping stone to the next level. And that's so amazing.
Well, I have, and one of the authors in the book is Kathy Quintana, who's a very dear friend of mine, a top executive with Hub International. And I can remember going through my challenges. I mean, my first year with the conference, we were 1.8 million in a deficit 17 days before the event.
Oh, wow.
Yikes.
And the sponsorship company that I had hired had pipelined $7 million. It's a multi-million-dollar event.
Sure.
Out of that $7 million, they came in with $100,000. So 17 days before the event, here I'm taking on this legacy from Governor George Duke Majan, and I'm being told by many, shut the event down. And I'll never forget this, Kathy, and she writes in the book just about the challenges that she faced. But what I had done during that time, and to answer your question, is I asked for the help. And so often we do not check our ego.
Right.
And we come to the table, and again, I live in Orange County.
Right.
It's like, oh, everything's great. You got the great house, the great this. That's life. You have challenges, and we don't ask for the help. And so I went to her. I asked for her help, and we went through a whole process of being able to go ahead, and we were able to raise $1.65 million. And I refer to them as those glorious 17 days. Glorious 17 days. I will tell you, there's one little side note. My husband, he is an accountant. He's a finance over at a big company here in Irvine. And I figured, you know what? I hadn't told him what had happened. Here I'm $1.8 million in a deficit. And I wasn't going to cancel the event. I was moving forward. And so I went home that night, went to sleep, figured I'd tell him, maybe as it got closer, give me some time to raise money.
Right.
Well, I ended up kicking him several times in my sleep. He turns on the light, looks at me, and he's like, what is going on with you, Michelle?
What are you stressing on?
What is happening?
Oh my gosh.
And I said, Eric, I've really done it. I'm 1.8 million, and I raised some money, and I have this. And he goes, first of all, I've been married to you 15 years, and you pulled stuff out of I'll let you fill in some choice words that he used. But he looked at me and he goes, everything seems worse at night. Everything seems worse at night.
Isn't that
Just
true?
go back to sleep,
Yes.
get up in the morning, start making your phone calls, and you'll be fine. And that's what I did. But I thought, here, he could have said something different.
No, but he was totally supportive.
Totally
and
supportive.
he knows you deep down inside. And we need that, I think, and coming from your partner, had
Absolutely.
he said anything different, who knows what the outcome could have been.
Who knows?
But,
And I think that goes back to Governor Duke Majan, Governor. I mean, that's what the book is about. That's what the conference. It's not about women. It's men and women showing up for each other.
There you go.
Are you there to be supportive?
Right.
Do you give that extra? Like, wow, you did a great job. I mean, women, we've competed for so long for those single seats.
Yes.
That we don't encourage each other, that we
Right.
don't go out of our way. And so that's what this is about. And, for me, again, a great role model has been Kathy Quintana. I've got some phenomenal models in my life, but that's why I've been able to do the things I've been able to do, is because I seek out those role models and I ask for the help. That's the key piece of advice
Right.
that I would
right.
give your listeners.
Yes,
I love that.
mean, I am a testimony of that. I actually reached out to Michelle Patterson, and I was like, I think this is going to be way ambitious, you know. So I reached out to her and I said, I just graduated from broadcasting school and I just landed my own show. And I said, I would absolutely love for you to be on the show. And she's like, yeah, how do I get involved? And I'm like,
Didn't
did
blink
you
an eye.
just say, yes, you want to come on my show? And that is so amazing. And, you know, I mean, I have a girl crush. The thing is, it's like, oh
Well,
my
back
gosh.
at you. I know. I'm like, I fall in love with these amazing, like, you know, that's what's so exciting. I mean, and if you support women, you help
Yes.
women. What happens is women go back to their communities and help and support their communities.
Absolutely.
So I have the same crush back to you,
Oh,
and
thank you.
I'm very proud of what you've
Thank
been
you.
doing. And I think again, it goes to, you know, I can remember we had Ariana Huffington, you know, speak at the conference,
Yeah.
and I wanted to go ahead and I wanted to create this panel where I had 100 million subscribers. And so I went through and I called
ambitious.
Blogger and I called Empower Her and The Daily Worth and I called Huffington Post. And I will tell you, and it makes me just my heart sing, every single one of those women across the board, all the CEOs, hands down, Michelle, whatever you need. How can I get involved? How can I help out?
Is that right?
And I thought, gosh, here I'm going in, I'm asking for the help. And they had the
Yes.
same response.
That's-
And we oftentimes we think, oh, they're going to think, you know,
Right.
like,
Yeah, I sure
weird,
did.
what,
Yeah,
you
where's she
know,
coming from?
and,
Yeah.
and my response, and again, this goes out to your listeners, anybody that pushes back or you don't want them, you don't want to be interviewing them.
Right.
Truly. I mean,
Truly,
this is
truly.
about, you know, they had help. You know, they had guidance.
Yes.
And it's about how do we help others.
Right.
You know, thank goodness, you know, again, Governor Duke Majan, you know, that he had made that impact, you know, because it has gone ahead and it kept me really focused. So it's just doing those things.
Well, you had to be pretty insightful as that 12-year-old, though, to take his words, to take the governor's words and do something with it, to say, I can do something. I don't have to walk around stoop-shouldered. I don't. I do fit in. I can fit in, and I will fit in, and obviously you have. I know you've made an impact globally on women, not just in the Americas, but making an impression on women at large through teaching, writing, leading, which I think is very inspiring. And your slogan, "We are better together." How did you come up with that? Because I found that everybody has to have a catchphrase, and that's a wonderful one.
And we were doing We Are Better Together, then it was Women Network Better Together.
Okay.
Because when you look at and the outcome and the conference happening and us being able to go all around the world, it's not building it around an individual. This is not the Michelle Patterson, you know, show. This is about many, many, many hosts, many men and women coming together and being able to go ahead and deliver that message.
Nice.
I love what I do because all I am is a conduit. I connect the dots. I put people in contact with each other, and that's when the magic happens.
Nice.
And so it's been really, really exciting. But the better together really stems from, don't go at this on your own. I mean, for me to tell people, I mean, I am building the largest community for women globally. And I'm doing that with a community. And what's exciting, I mean, we've sat down with all these different organizations, everyone from the United Nations to NABO to Black Enterprise, Global Clit Initiative, I mean, you name it. We've sat down with all the leaders, and the common theme and the common response is, Michelle, count on us. We want to be involved. It's time that these organizations, that we come and we work collectively together.
Yes.
And not go about this independently of one another.
That is miraculous, getting the United Nations involved in something like this. I mean, they're all about peace anyway, but coming from a women's angle,
Right.
and wanting to actually get the word out there and help you do this as a collective, I think is fantastic and quite astounding, actually, when you think about it. Something
Absolutely.
worldwide.
But that's what's so exciting, though, is you have people from everywhere that are just, you know, what can we do collectively? You know, imagine 100 million women showing up on the doorsteps of Congress. I mean, laws get changed. You know, in our world today, today, 1 out of 4 women will be beaten or raped in their lifetime. You know, when you start looking at the issues and you look at poverty and, you know, the only way that we are going to eradicate any of these issues is by us coming together and working collectively together. It's not going to be one organization. It's going to be how. And that's what Women Network is. It's we created a platform so that we can come in and then we can spotlight, you know, all the great things that these men and women are doing.
Nice. Have you actually tried to take something up to the hill and get it into the floor?
You know, we did have, we had an event and we held it over at Memorial Hospital. And a lady by the name of Sybil was one of our speakers, an attorney, and speaks on healthcare reform at Hub. And so we had her as a speaker. We captured the video, as we love what Huffington Post has done and TED Talks have done. So we captured that video. We posted it on Women Network. That post got picked up by Congress.
Wow.
And Sybil then got invited to speak at a congressional hearing.
How about that?
And she came to me when we had dinner a few months ago, and she said, you know, she's like, you've completely changed like what I do for a living. She goes, here I'm practicing law, and now I'm speaking all over.
Oh, darn.
And so that's the kind of stuff. But it really goes, it's being able to acknowledge these great things. Women are doing amazing things in the world. And that's why the book title, Women Change the World. They're doing phenomenal things. And I love the quote. One of my favorite quotes is from Warren Buffett. And he says, I am so excited about the potential of the economy in the United States. And the reason why I'm so excited, because we've unleashed the power of women. And we're no longer focusing on just 50% of the population and the talent pool, but with women now, we're going after 100%.
Nice.
And we're going after, and that's what this is about. And if we were a bunch of all women, we would be doing the same thing for our men. We wouldn't want to have it all women.
Right.
I trust it. I could believe that.
We would want to have it. You need to have that gender balance, and you need to have, because that's what makes great teams.
Sure. Oh, in ancient times, they knew it way back in ancient times that they could actually form entire battalions of women to fight wars, and they knew that this would work, armed with bows and arrows or spears or whatever. But even then, they knew the power of a woman and a woman's collective. You put enough women together, things will happen.
Things happen.
Absolutely.
happen.
And you need the balance in anything. You need the balance. And the thing is, it's like there is a difference between the feminine and the masculine, you know, but we need both. We need both. I mean, there is no weaker gender or stronger gender. I think like the book and like what you stand for is we are better together.
Yeah. Oh, most of the stories have an underlying theme of look for the greatness in someone that you want to help, not their weakness, and help them build on that greatness. And we all come from greatness. You just have to look inside and find it and pull it out. You know, find your purpose, live that dream.
And I think that's such a great comment, is that, you know, I mean, there's, you know, so many things that I wish I could do better, but you know what?
Hey.
That's not how we're made. We don't have the whole, we're
No.
not structured that way.
Sure.
But when we come together, it's collectively, we've got all the pieces.
And that's the beauty of it. That's the beauty of it. I mean, if we were perfect on our own, who would need anybody else? The thing is, we are definitely made to be, you know, to actually have that balance and be better together.
Oh, yeah, it'd be a pretty bland world now
Exactly.
if we all were equals
same.
doing the same thing.
And I even think, too, is I think the people that are like sandpaper, you know, where they rub you the wrong way,
Sure.
I think those sometimes can be the people we learn
Sure.
the
They
most
have a
from,
purpose.
too.
Heck
They
yeah.
absolutely.
Definitely.
Definitely.
You know, and again, I go back to my husband. I mean, there's many times I've thought, you know, would I have been so loving, you know, in the middle of the night when, you know, if he were to wake me up and say, you know, I owe 1.8 million. I think I would have, right? I would have said, okay, what?
Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
Right.
I don't know if the role was reversed, if she was changed, if I would have been so loving. So
Yeah.
I look back at that, and that's why I think is, you know, ask yourself, you know, who did I help? Who did I extend a helping hand to? You know, did I reach out? Did I give that guidance? You know, did I help somebody? I mean, the governor, I talked to him for 15 minutes.
Right.
He made an impact. And
Yes.
every single one of us, we all have that opportunity to have that impact and to make that impression
Sure.
and change a life.
Definitely. Oh, yeah. And if you look for a little bit of yourself in the individuals that you do encounter throughout your travels, I think you will, even that person that it is like sandpaper, you can make that work, because there's something in there that maybe you need. There's a gem or a morsel that can contribute to what you're
Absolutely.
trying to do as well.
There is a quote that I remember. It says, everybody wants to be a diamond, but nobody wants to get cut. But it's so true.
Ouch.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of just that, that chisel,
Yeah.
chisel. But the thing is, it's like a masterpiece can only be a masterpiece once it gets chiseled, once it gets, And so it is about getting cut. And sometimes we don't want to hear the negativities, or we don't want to hear the criticisms, but that's what makes us better, because you do think about it. That actually has more of an impact most of the time on us, but it's about overcoming those.
Well, and I think too, you said it perfectly, Rachel, is we're hardest on ourselves. I mean, I
Yes.
can remember going through that initial, here I'd taken over the conference, and that was my background. I was producing 30,000 people events. I had been entrusted to take this conference on, and the monkey chatter that was going on. It's, Michelle, you're not out of the governor's office, you're not a Kennedy,
Right.
Maria Shriver had the role before, you're not those things. And so it's that chatter,
Yes.
Right.
and it's being able to go ahead and go, I see that fear, I feel that fear, but I'm not going to be that.
Right.
And be able to go ahead and stay on course. And I look back now, I'm so grateful that I had those 17 days of having to truly just go in and fundraise, and it was horrific at times. I mean, it was
I can imagine.
exhilarating. I mean, I felt like, I had the big L on my forehead at times, but it was exciting just to see where people could feel my passion.
Yes.
And it's like, she's doing this regardless. I mean, she's going for this, and get behind the cause and recognize, okay, I need to do my part and be able to support and help. And we did it. We did it.
Well, the pressure was on having to fill Maria Shriver's shoes right
Wow.
there.
There's nobody feels those
Yeah,
shoes.
I would imagine not.
She's talk about an extraordinary woman, and I feel fortunate that I had the opportunity to come in and work on a conference. But again, it's being able to build it, and so that it continues on. I always, I joke with my team, there's 1,000 people that come together to make this conference happen. I mean, truly, all these different organizations. But, it, with or without me, that thing is going forward. There's too much work, and too much work from the past governor's offices that have gone into making that conference what it is today.
Well, how do you even step into an office like that? There's no training ground there, so to speak. It's like riding a motorcycle. You can either do it or you can't. And
You know what? It goes back to, it's asking for the help. Don't pretend like you got all the answers. Come in, ask for the support,
Check your
ask
ego.
for the help, check your ego, and being able to go through that process. Our event, it's biannual, and then we're doing this year for the first time. We actually have a virtual California Women's Conference that's happening that will go out across the world. And we've been in conversations with folks from China and from Mexico. And I mean, there's, again, these countries are coming and they all want to be a part of this.
I love that.
And so what we're doing is our programming, which I love, is Gallup Poll and Strength Finder came up with the 5 to Thrive. And we heard 50 years of study, and it was, what can you do to lead your best life? Your most amazing life. And it was focusing on the 5. It was career, physical, financial, social, and community. And so when we do these conferences, we focus on those 5 areas and really teaching men and women how to have their best life.
There you go.
Now, I know last year that you guys started a teen program.
We did. There's the concentrated version of me that lives at my house. It's my daughter, Jacqueline Patterson, and she went and pulled in people from all over the world. So it's just amazing what has happened, and there's many, many ways to get involved. So I would love to have individuals part of the conference. And the big push now is our community through Women Network. The feedback that we got was, we love this event, but it's a couple days. We want something 365 days.
Bigger, yeah, we want
Very
it all the
nice.
time. Yeah, I could see. We're about at the end of our time. Could you give us one last morsel of all of this energy and goodness and purpose and wonder that's made up Michelle Patterson?
You know what? Just great examples in Women Change the World. You're not alone. If you have an amazing idea, share it.
Good.
Share that idea and share that passion.
Yes.
Because you can make that passion come to reality.
In talking with our guest, Michelle Patterson, today, I was moved to talk about leading people and serving one's nature. And to do this, nothing surpasses thrift and moderation. And by that, I mean being in harmony with the world at large through your generous nature. The ancient sage Lao Tzu, who gave us the Tao Te Ching, said, if nothing is impossible, then there are no limits. So I say to you, practice living without limits by gathering virtue and molding it to your benefit. You could do this in many ways. You could start by getting rid of the excess in your life. Look around you right now. In your line of sight, I bet there are things you see that are just collecting dust or that have not been used in ages. Why not donate these things or give them to someone you know that could really use them? You will see a big difference in the way you feel, and you will notice things come back to you in ways you never dreamed. Live on just what you need rather than constant consumption. You will grow by serving rather than accumulating. Lao Tzu also reminds us that this is the secret to long life and lasting vision. So clear the clutter of your mind and your domain. Make a commitment to gather virtue points today by giving anonymously to someone in need or perform a random act of kindness to accumulate this virtue. William Shakespeare describes this in his play, Henry VI. He says, my crown is not my heart, not on my head, not decked with diamonds and Indian stones, nor to be seen. My crown is called content, a crown it is that seldom kings enjoy. So be content today. I hope you've been inspired today on this program and will join us next time. On behalf of myself and Rachel Dares and all the people at OC Digital Studios, I hope you will remain passion-driven. As always, be good to each other, and thanks for watching PASSIONDRIVEN.TV.